Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Dishwasher Chronicles, presented by The Washing Up. I'm Chris, and I'm Christyless. So we have mentioned this on the social media channels. Christy's talked about this as well on our Bake Off podcasts. Her mother has cancer, and as a result of that, just timing-wise, MasterChef doesn't make much sense. So she's not going to be able to sort of watch it as regularly. So we decided we'd do it this way, whereas I'd be watching it and I'll be bringing in guest hosts every week to do what we're going to refer to as the Dishwasher Chronicles. And there is only one way you can start. And the only way you can start is with a former MasterChef winner, and also a really good friend of the podcast and a really good friend, Elena Duggan. How are we?
Hello, Chris and Christyless. You've got your dishwasher on. I've got my dehydrator on. I hope it's not messing up our audio levels too much. But no, food's got to be saved. Minimizing waste over here. Food does, and that again, and that's something. Again, appetite for change. Everybody, check it out.
No, you actually should check it out. That's a very real plug, by the way. And not solicited. She did not solicit that. Really good.
I'm not sponsoring this episode of The Washing Up.
No, you're not. You're not at all. But no, I've got the dishwasher on. I mean, I had the air fryer on earlier. I have actually made that move to an air fryer. Really good. I did a leg of lamb tonight while MasterChef was on. It's sensational. Anyway.
Oh, nice. I've been hearing good things. I'm yet to play with one myself, but I've experienced the joyful, yes, the other end of it.
The joy of
the recipient of the air fried goods, and I was impressed.
The joy of air frying. Yeah, no, it's actually gone really well. I'm interested to see if we eventually get to an air fryer challenge on MasterChef. Can't wait to see if we get there. I mean, they've got every other appliance under the sun, so why not?
It'd be, I guess, like a Jaffle challenge, which has previously been there. Maybe.
I mean, I think the difference is, I mean, we know that there's a lot more of a theatrical move to like a hibachi, and we know this because we see them a lot. So that's something that's very real. We'll get into what sort of happened so far, because it's been a really intriguing sort of start to MasterChef, I think. I think we've had, obviously, I'll start with the drinking game, because I know that there are a lot of people that play the drinking game, only listen because they've seen the drinking game. The drinking game this week, I started with matcha because it's me. And I have to start with matcha. And didn't we get a lot of hits on matcha? Second dish of the competition, and we hit 3 things, and matcha was the first thing I noticed. So
I think there may have even been more than what was audible or referenced, because there was a lot of green.
There was some pistachio,
and it couldn't have all been lemon myrtle.
No, not everything can be lemon myrtle. I mean, look, I think that Trent used the entire supply tonight. So there were spheres and domes I had down, and we got a dome with the matcha. We got the Vespa, but we had to wait.
Yes, patience.
I understood. I understood why we had to wait for the Vespa, because you want to feel like you've earned the Vespa. But if I have to sit through 2 nights of MasterChef with no Vespa, like, again, I'm going to lose it. So I'm reinventing or reimagining. That was said a few times. And
variations on that, which I think still count.
Oh yeah, variations on the theme. Well, wait till we get to the non-story square. 10-shot mega square was Jock and Andy have a cook-off against the contestants. Didn't happen, but I mean, it could have. There were a couple of times where I thought at one point that they were going to get ingredients to do just that. Someone who has auditioned before returns. Look, they didn't run a normal audition process, so that one didn't hit. Use of smoke did hit big time. By the way, somebody asked me about hibachis, and I went, look, I thought hibachi was too much of a free kick. So
yeah, that would have been just painful.
But what we did instead was use of smoke, which is technically going to hit the hibachi. So, knock yourself out on that one. If you go back and rewatch these episodes on 10 Play, every time you see a hibachi, knock yourself out on use of smoke with a drink.
Yeah, you might have to start strategically playing. Which days can I afford to write off the following day?
Is this a dessert challenge this week? Look, no, I'm not gonna watch today. I can't afford to get drunk. Panna cotta No, not really.
No.
And the Nonna story, on the other hand, we hit.
Nonna, Yaya, Oma.
Yeah, we hit all the variations across the rainbow. It was fantastically amazing. Let's get into it. What sort of your general, and we don't have to follow in sync, and we don't have to follow a running order here, because let's face it, the way that I think I've described the first couple of nights of MasterChef were full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. I don't know. What did you think of sort of the opening week?
The first couple of nights were a bit long for me, but I'm at the moment barely sitting through 10 minutes of anything with a toddler. So to sit through that long was a challenge, despite there being obvious glimpses and of absolute thrill and excitement and the potential of what was going to be and the personalities and the excitement and the joy and the buzz that is the sort of those first few aprons and then the next night as well. I always relate to the people on the sidelines going for the second chances. It's a very bizarre feeling, because you sort of, in some respects, you're sort of cheering for the people that you would like to live with.
Yeah, exactly. They're going, look, I think you'd be fun. I think you'd be a lot. I don't want to wake up in the morning and just have to deal with you at the kitchen table. No.
And you also don't really know the vibe of everybody yet. Is it super competitive? How much can you be encouraging? I probably put it all out there very early, because that's just me.
Yeah.
And going for everybody and wanting everybody to do well, etc. But it is a very unusual sort of time of you feeling absolutely elated and really looking forward to what's next. But knowing that people are still in that situation, which you could also see the three on the gantry early in tonight's episode sort of struggling a little bit with the battling with the wanting to watch, but also very humbly enjoying their
they couldn't
safety.
They couldn't quite work out how to sort of pitch it from the gantry, could they? It was really interesting, because like when watching them on the gantry and the way they were trying to sort of, on one hand, appear to be very magnanimous, on the other hand, clearly enjoying it. I mean, Elise had that great moment on the gantry where she was like, talking about being up there. Oh, I feel a bit jealous of them all being able to cook. And there's like, well, who wants to swap places with her? And she's like, oh no, I don't mean that. No. I'll definitely stay up here.
Yes.
Hard to pitch though, that first gantry, I think. That's really awkward.
Yes. I'm glad for them that they had each other as opposed to just one single person at least.
One up and they're going, I'm all by myself. But I thought we'll start with the first two nights, because night one, the first 20 minutes of it are basically a very long-winded promo for the season. So we got a lot of very slow motion bad acting, which I love when they make them do slow motion bad acting. It's one of my favorite things. And I mean, look, they had to make up for the fact that the credits have become quite boring.
I actually am a little bit sorry for the contestants not being able to have that, because that day it's still etched in my memory as this quite joyful celebration and acknowledgement. It's like, because you're not doing it with everyone else, you have this moment to yourself to kind of acknowledge what you've done thus far. So taking, I mean, I know that the current contestants don't have anything to compare it to, but I'm a little bit sad that due to circumstances that they're not doing that at the moment.
Oh, I mean, like, and there's been some spectacular ones. I mean, two of my favorites from any season, two of my favorites remain, first of all, Huda throwing things at the camera directly, which is a very Huda move, by the way. And the other one is Joe's sort of moving things around and something falls and it's, oh no! And I love Joe's over, and Joe knows.
I really liked it too.
It's so much fun. But like, now it's just real, they're boring credits. So they got to do their overacting in their whole, they're sitting at a desk and they look up like they're looking to the future and they can see MasterChef in the distance calling them like a beacon. And you're just like, it's a food show, guys. Like, do we need to do the bad overacting? And then we get the bad overacting, and then we get all these sort of bits and pieces of, and this is what we're going to do. And they focused on all the celebrities, which, first of all, because it was lockdown, none of them are there. Secondly,
I am impressed with the aspect of the backstories is that they or all of that slow motion footage. It does appear like they were able to to go places and to get places and to connect with people's homes, which I did not expect.
I wonder if they were able to use workplaces because everyone else was working from home.
Yeah, maybe.
But they were like offices free, and they're like, we'll just sit you in an office and pretend it's yours.
So maybe when they were looking off in the distance, they were genuinely wondering what was out there.
Yeah, they were like, I've never been in that. I don't know what that room is. I've never seen this office. Why would you have a photo of an elk on the wall? I can't. The thing that I think everybody noticed in the first 2 nights in the audition process, apart from the fact that they needed to work out a way to stretch the audition process 2 nights with, the inability to get people in and out all the time. So they basically had a slightly expanded group, which they were cutting down to 24, and then rotating the ones who didn't make it through on the first night around so they could get 2 nights out of it. The other thing I think everyone noticed, how many doctors and how many lawyers and how many data analysts do we have? Seems like a lot of lawyers, doctors, and data analysts. Like lots of people in finance.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether they had more time than others during lockdown to apply, or
where all the flour went.
Whether there's been less jobs, and so the prospects are seeming a little bit gloomy, and then they've realised what brings them inner peace and joy, or some other anomaly that I'm not aware of.
Again, like someone had to buy up all that flour in first lockdown, and someone had to buy all those ingredients up when everyone went and looted the shops, and it's people with disposable income. So maybe, maybe we've got there. It's got to be it. Got to be the answer. If there's a craft show, you'll know about it because all these people will be suddenly making like toilet.
So we should be surprised that people aren't filming their backstories from a container full of TP.
Yes, exactly. As I said, when we end up with like a craft show on Australian television, and all these
wedding dresses, TP wedding dresses galore.
Oh, that's a look. That's totally a look. That needs to be happening. I was also a bit disappointed on the first night. It seemed like they were showing holographic Nigella, but it's just a big screen. And I was so hopeful.
I was really hopeful it was holographic as well. I was hoping.
I was wanting it. It looked really cool. Now, we had a couple of weird things early on. Now, when they walk into, and again, that where I'm assuming from what I sort of know of the place, and you don't need to tell me obviously, but from what I know of the place, that looked like the big warehouse they were in looked like the big warehouse next door, which is the storage warehouse.
Yeah.
And they walked in there, and they first of all had the plate sitting in the middle of the room lit up.
Yeah.
And they read some names off there.
I didn't hear my name.
No, you were missing it. I noticed.
I did not hear my name. Otherwise, I would have shouted at the TV, present and accounted for.
What I also appreciated was there was somebody who wanted to go and spin Beyblades inside the trophy, which
I thought I knew what those were, but I definitely don't, because that I thought was far too small to do such a thing.
I'm just amazed that somebody actually suggested that.
That it was included in the edit.
Well, I wonder if like the editors just went, that's weird, let's leave that in. That's bizarre. Someone's like, oh, I'd like to use that. Can you imagine serving food on that? And they're like, that's a bit too basic. Or someone's like, imagine spinning a Beyblade in it. And you're like, that's something I've never heard before. We're keeping that one in the edit, folks. We're keeping that one. And in that first night, it was, again, they're all getting used to it. It was getting the judges in there was great. And I genuinely sort of cheered when they walked in the door.
Absolutely.
They've all been pretty good so far. Although I will, again, ask the question, how long has Andy been selling vacuums door to door with that outfit from tonight, which was quite an interesting combination of shirt, business jacket, plaid pants.
I just feel bad. He's in Melbourne and he's going to have cold ankles a lot.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt him. Like the socks, Andy. Socks, they're a thing. Please, I beg you. It's winter in Melbourne is cold. But Jock sort of, there was one point where I tweeted out the way Jock held the S on signature. We're going to need your, and for some reason in my head, I had him say your second best dish. And I thought, that's an interesting start to MasterChef. Don't give us your best, second best.
I like some of his pauses. They're You do, as a contestant, you really are kind of going, where's this going? Where's this going? Where's this going? Oh, it's just going there. Okay.
Now, not suggesting that the editors know exactly what they're doing, but the first person that we got to see go in there was Brent, the Boilermaker. And I mean, look, I love the fact that he's a Boilermaker. I look forward to week 2 when he feels like he can stop saying every week, I'm just a Boilermaker.
Could we just put a can on the word just?
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like, and this is
everybody's saying they're just this, they're just that. All are worthy professions, careers, roles, important roles. All these mums saying, I'm just a mum. I'm like, what? This is the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yes, I'm just a mum. I'm just someone who works in medicine. What? Just someone
I'm just saving lives. I'm just raising humans.
I'm just a Boilermaker. And I look at him like, dude, there's not a hope that I would be able to do anything you can do. Like, honestly, like not just anything. Don't sell yourself short. But
absolutely. And all of those experiences are leading them to have a view and a perspective and an experience before this one. So they're all enriching to your lives. Value yourselves.
So there are a couple of people that, again, are worthy of, and look, and if we don't mention you on this, rest assured it's not because we hate you. And it's not because we, don't really understand anything about you or didn't pay attention properly. It's that there's now 24 of you. There were 36 of you. And we've had a very chaotic couple of days where we don't really know everybody yet. And obviously, as people who watch the show know, most people aren't featured in the first week. They pick a couple.
What?
And that's it.
What?
You went into the kitchen 2 weeks from the end?
Yeah. They came out of nowhere.
Yeah, they let you in 2 weeks before the end, didn't they? That was your trick. Your trick for winning was like, I just came in at the end there. No one noticed I was there, and I just sort of snuck in the back door and ta-da! I was about to say you Trented, which is a podcast thing, but as we've seen, Trent has changed the definition of that. Forever, he's changed. We'll come to him in a minute. We had a couple though that I want to focus on. Obviously, Brent and can I just say his use of flavor was really impressive. Like, I was seriously impressed.
Absolutely. And tonight there was a lovely restraint and simplicity and elegance as well. So I think there's a lot more to see there.
We will. And the other one, there were a couple of others that really stood out early on. I'm going to go, like, the second dish was the one that caused all sorts of problems for the drinking game. And that's Therese. So Therese turns up with her mushroom design thing, which is the dome, the matcha, and the smoke.
Which was very controversial on social media.
I heard it was controversial, but I didn't see much of why it was controversial.
The shape and the reveal, I will suggest, Chris.
I know where you're going, but I mean, it's not like that individual invented that. Anyway.
Not at all. And from most views, that's not the way it came across.
No. And I got...
And having just been mushroom foraging, that's all I had on my mind. I know where you were going, but I was
trying to keep it clean for a change. I was trying to keep it... I do not want to sit on a podcast with national treasure Elena Duggan and say she presented a penis.
And that's why I said mushroom foraging. I was going in a different direction.
Sure you were. Anyway, so it did draw the ire of not ire, but the amusement and the interest of a lot of people for its apparent shape. And I looked at it, and all I saw was a mushroom, a rather misshapen mushroom, but a mushroom. My biggest problem was matcha, which we all know is my failing, but and don't worry, that was washed out later on by the person who did a yuzu everything. So thankfully I left yuzu off the game card this week because we had yuzu crumb.
You can't have both.
No, I learned a while ago. I can't have all my ranting on the one card. I have to. Next week, yuzu will appear though. So I thought that was really cool. Tommy was amazing. And like Tommy was wonderful. First of all, his dish was great, but then that was the first time when we got like Tommy went out and rang his mum. And we got the phone call back home.
Absolutely.
And that was just lovely. Like, and there were a couple.
And just another layer of diversity, representation, respect, and celebration of culture and heritage, which is so lovely to see.
Speaking of that, if I do not mention the next contestant, Twitter will lynch me. Kishwa.
Oh, isn't she a darling?
I think Australia is in love. Very firmly. And again, this is another one where her whole thing has been that she's worried about Bangladeshi food not being seen as being sophisticated enough. And I'm really interested to see how this goes. And I'm also interested to see, because you could see that Melissa in particular was trying to sort of get into her head, get that idea out now, because it's
absolutely. Sarah Tiong did an awesome article last year, or was interviewed last year, and in terms of the complexities and regionally specific, all of the different layers and histories, and how can it not be considered fine dining, or what you're presenting any less valued, or it's I'm glad that I think that it'll be a recurring theme, because as we've seen so far, some really beautiful, what some of these cooks are telling us are homestyle meals, and they are just, there's so much going on in terms of flavor, in terms of technique, in terms of storytelling and history, and acknowledging anyway, it's I'm really pleased to see it.
But it's been, and this is something we talked about this, that was the fine dining challenge, I think it was year before last now, was where there was that whole argument about, well, fine dining, that was code for white, or traditional Anglo-Saxon style, what would be served in a restaurant in white parts of the world.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's only just been in the last 5 years that a dumpling, a space famous for dumplings, has made the Michelin star list. Yep. So it's it's traditionally not a space. Traditionally within that space, not a space for anyone else.
and this is something that I've been really, and again, we talked to you about it not long after it happened, and it's one of the reasons why I'm absolutely thrilled that Melissa Leong is there, because we talked about this a lot when she was announced, that we absolutely adored Melissa on Chef's Line, because what was happening was, at a time where on MasterChef, the judging was very much just talking about Southeast Asian cuisine or Asian cuisine in general. And it was just all being lumped together. On Chef's Line, if you watch a couple of those episodes, Melissa was specifically calling on people and going, well, look, you've talked about general Southeast Asian flavors, but like that's more Cambodian influence than Vietnamese influence. And I know they're similar, but there are differences. And she can pick the subtleties and differences because her voice has been so prominent. And she's there now and very publicly talking about this. We're seeing this delineation of cuisine.
And there's a lot of fantastic publications. I'll put it out there. Gourmet Traveller at the moment doing some incredible work. Danny Valent's podcast as well, talking about all of those rich histories, talking about all of the specifics and the differences and the celebration and the just those fine details that do differentiate all of those different cuisines and celebrate all of those. And it's have a read of anything by Yvonne C. Lamb at the moment, and Danny Valent's the last couple of weeks on Dirty Linen on her podcast as well, if you sort of want to learn a little bit more about a variety of those within that sphere, I guess.
Yeah, no, there's been some, I've seen, if you've mentioned a couple of those sort of to me, and I've had a bit of a look, and there's some really good articles out there right now. Highly recommend them. I want to move off this for a minute, because we'll come back to some of the people who are still there, obviously, in a minute. But I think we need to make a stop in the land of Ben. And the reason we need to make a stop in the land of Ben is that I've never seen a contestant that's gone into MasterChef so determined to make themselves the bad guy, especially in an audition process, which is really
I'm looking at the contestants in the top 24 and I'm thinking, Ben.
No. Ben is the guy Ben is
it's
Mr.
all coming
Dessert.
back to me.
Ben is Mr. Dessert. He goes, look, I'm not really a dessert person, but I know this is what they're going to want to see. Then he presents it, and they go, this isn't really good. I think you've just presented what you want us to think is good. And he goes, I disagree. And you just looked at Melissa Leong and you're like, oh, you're about to get killed. And
in a year of mansplaining the mansplainer, it's just it really couldn't have been worse timing for a person to not listen.
The way she did it was the
grace, the thoughtfulness, the kind, the care, the compassion for someone who may or may not be deserving of that time and space. My goodness.
The line that she used was, I invite you to listen. And I'm just like, that is exquisite.
Yes.
Like, it is the most beautifully poetic, thoughtful, shut up and listen to me that I've ever heard.
Yes.
And the tone and the look, and she pointed at the apron, if you want one of these and you want to get close, I invite you to listen to what we're saying. And you could just see he didn't want to. It's no coincidence, I think, that the following night in the second cook, Ben was nowhere to be found.
No.
He got no camera time whatsoever. They just went, no, he doesn't exist anymore. He was there. He was eviscerated by Mel. It was done. I used that line in a classroom the day after, and my word, didn't it work. I had a year 12 class not paying attention, and I looked at a couple and went, I invite you to listen to what I'm telling you. And they just looked at me like, what? And I'm like, that was beautiful. Thank you, Melissa, for that. That was just, it was my favorite moment of the whole 2 nights or 4 weeks, whatever it was, of audition process.
And it's, I mean, it's a fantastic metaphor for just like, who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing? Like, at this point in time, you should be doing that anyway. What are you? These are the people that are going to make or break what happens next. Yeah.
The other one I felt really sorry for was, I felt sorry for Tom. So Tom, when he auditioned, and I'm like, his dish was really good. So it was fantastic watching him, and he the dessert, obviously. And then as he's there, they go, you could be the next Heston or the next Reynolds. And I'm like, no, the first
Tom.
Don't compare.
Yeah, I got a little bit nervy with that as well, because I saw it lining up on Twitter with a bunch of people. They're the next this person or the next that person. I'm like, why can't they be on their own? Why can't they be a category and amazing achievement all on their own?
It was one of the things we were spared on Back to Win because of the fact that it was people who had returned. So you didn't get they remind me so much of insert name here. Because they've been on previously, so you can just reference who they are.
Yes.
But so we haven't seen that for a little bit, and then we got this, and I understand when it happens on Twitter or social media, but I just felt like they don't need to say that in their judging.
Yeah.
Like, they don't need to go, you could be the next, because that's automatically pigeonholing them into something they're not. And you don't want to be the next something else. You want to be the first you.
Yeah.
No, I just
spoken like a very good motivational teacher there.
That's what we're going with.
Yes.
Speaking of motivation, I am motivated deeply by, again, look, it's Pete, but it's not really Pete. I am motivated by what I'm referring to as clean cut, and that's what I reckon. So
we don't think you're the next Nats.
No, I just think you're a clean cut version. I think you've sort of straightened yourself up a bit, and you might actually be Nat in disguise. And I'm just waiting for him to go look at the camera and go, evening champions, and we're ready. But I just keep on celebrating. Like, he just looks, and again, his food has been really good so far.
Yeah, and I think I tweeted it to you tonight. I really appreciated that his honest reaction was, oh wow, they liked it. Okay, I thought it was okay, but they really liked it. This is just so exciting. I just love that buzz, that acknowledgement, and that reward. That moment is awesome.
Yeah, the genuine reactions that we got from that. Now, we've talked a lot about a lot of the positives. There are a couple of other bits and pieces, and we'll sort of touch on a few other issues. I never thought I'd ever hear somebody talk about giving up a law career, by the way, to support a tasting plate business. Not a sentence you hear every day. It's, and especially not in the middle of a lockdown. Definitely not something you hear every day. It's the weirdness of the whole the run of law and medicine and finance careers that we had. It was like all these lawyers who gave up law to go and do food.
And I do have to wonder if it is a very specific COVID response, like
possibly
people having time off for the first time. I mean, if these people have gone through study and then straight into full-time employment and haven't had a break to actually think about what makes them happy and brings them joy, that may have been the first time that they have done that in their adult life.
Because we've noticed this in education. That's something that popped up. There were more transfers last year, in the second half of last year in education, than I've ever seen in my life, and they were happening within 2 weeks.
Are you talking staff or student subjects? Or okay, gotcha.
And the reason we seemed to be, and this was with talking to other people in other schools, everybody who'd been in schools for a while and they were quite comfortable, COVID hit and they all stopped and went, do I really want to just stay, or do I need to change?
Yeah.
And people actually stopped and reevaluated a bit. And I think that's possibly what we're seeing with this season of MasterChef, is a lot of stopping and reevaluating. So I think that's an interesting take on what's been going on. The downsides. The first 2 nights were long, really, really long. And they kind of, I feel like they killed the audience, especially the second night with the 45 minutes of actual cook time that took an hour and a half. That was a long challenge.
Yeah, and the social media, there was definitely a drop-off in interaction as well.
I noticed that last night. I noticed the social was a lot more quiet than it has been.
Which is a lot of the fun of it all, just in case anyone is thinking about joining.
Social's great.
The fun of it, yeah.
The social's actually, look, and the thing was, like, the social hasn't been mean so far. It's been funny. And I think I think the social got a bit of a reset last season. Like the last season, and then especially Junior, reset the vibe online significantly for MasterChef. And there was a lot more positivity and a lot more warmth, I think, online. Long may it continue. Yes. Like, genuinely long may it continue. I did love, for example, one of my favorite tweets last night was from at John O'Kick, who just tweeted out, all of these people seem great, but are any of them in the Scouts? With a picture from Junior
I saw that one too.
Absolutely. One of my favorite tweets of the run so far. Speaking of favorite things,
Emelia?
We got some Emelia. And this is fantastic because I get to sit here and nerd out with Elena about Emelia. And this is something, by the way, that I have frequently done, just talking to Elena in general, not on a podcast, just nerding out about Emelia, and vice versa, by the way. She is awesome.
Yes, she is awesome. And despite her horrible, horrible start to her pregnancy of actually being so sick, she was bloody glowing on television. I'm thinking, oh man, I don't think either of my pregnancies I've looked as good as you're looking, lady.
It was really funny to watch. Like, I loved her starting point of, I've spent the last 3 months chucking my guts up.
Everyone's like, where is this going? Where is this going?
Where is this going? I'm like, oh, whose restaurant is she going to say she had? And what I love is, because they did it as a big reveal, and obviously to those contestants it would have been a reveal at that point in time. But if you've been following Emelia on Instagram, it's not a reveal. There was no reveal there. It was so good though to see her in there, and it was also the thing that I loved about it, and I say this to someone else who I'd like to see celebrated a little bit more. That's a personal view. Is it was good to see her actually get celebrated too.
Yeah. It was lovely. And I'm so glad that she has maintained herself from last season, in that she also celebrates herself and acknowledges and rewards. And there's a beautiful confidence and something to be admired in there. I'm glad that she's a role model for young women watching.
I absolutely love that she during the second half in particular of Back to Win, you could just see she came into her own and was just feeling that confidence sort of growing within her. And then obviously we spoke to her when she was on the week that she was on Junior, was when we actually got to finally catch up with her, which was because she was, funnily enough, MasterChef went up crazy busy immediately following MasterChef. Who knew?
Weird.
I know, you would know nothing about that. But yeah, it took a while to catch up. But when we spoke to her for Junior, you could hear the genuine joy in her voice too about going back and doing Junior.
Yes.
And she was like, going back in with the kids was so much fun. And you could see, she was literally glowing. And it wasn't just like pregnancy. She was glowing.
Yeah.
Being in that kitchen.
Yeah.
And setting that mystery box. What do we think?
And she gave herself goosebumps, she said at one point, and she was very compassionate about the feelings of the person on the other side, looking back, sort of eagerly awaiting what the feedback was. She's very very empathetic in all of those situations.
Yeah, there were a couple of points where you could see that she was about to do something. She looked at me and she's like, whoa, I'm just about to do this. And genuine, that wasn't put on. You could just see it in her face. Yeah, so what did we think of the mystery box?
I liked it. I would have, there was a lot of things that I would have cooked. Let me see if I can pull up an image of it now, because I had a very clear thought as soon as I saw it all. Wonder if I can... I would have gone the quail, the cherries, the saltbush, silver beet. Yeah, I would have definitely done the quail and cherries as the sort of... those big flavors, and then all those other things would have complemented. I love that she put in silver beet and potatoes. Silver beet in particular doesn't often get highlighted, but it's one of my favorite go-tos at home. And in terms of anyone growing at home, it grows so well and it's so versatile. So I liked the mix of things that they may not have used before, and then very sort of common and available, and I guess there's a good price selection in there as well, sort of if you're thinking of budget and thinking about what you might like to recreate for cooks at home.
Well, that was something that COVID, I think, did with a lot of people was, and I actually think I was talking to you one day when I got one of our fruit and vegetable orders, and we ordered this double box of massive fruit and veg. And as I'm pulling things out of the boxes, I'm describing to Elena, I got this. And she's like, oh, that'd be really good for this. And this is a great sort of description.
That doesn't sound like me.
No, not at all.
Being inspired by produce.
Random things I'm pulling out of the box. Like, what do you reckon about this? It's just so much fun. The other interesting thing from last night was the 3 pins. So they again went, these are the only 3 pins they're doing. They're not doing any other pins. They're only doing 3 immunity pins. I have views. I'm not a fan of the immunity pin. I don't like it. I'm on record as saying I don't like the immunity pins because I feel like it takes it too far away from the cooking and the food, and it becomes this whole narrative usually around, are they going to use their pin or not?
I have to... I guess in terms of it being a competition, it is very easy to lose sight as a contestant and as a viewer a lot of the time that it is a competition.
Yeah.
If you have a look at, Amazing Race or Survivor or any of those other things, there's all of these little steps along the way that don't seem to bother me as much. Yeah. So I kind of have to, try to put myself outside of that and go, well, I guess this is a part of the game, the competition itself. But I remember being, I just always assumed that if there was a person with a pin in a cook that I was in, that they would use it. So I just didn't count them.
Now
it's a funny one.
Well, there's a couple of interesting things. First of all, they did take something that I liked for Junior, because obviously with Junior it's a bit different. But what I liked for Junior was when they gave out immunity, it was the gong. And
Yes.
I loved the gong because, first of all, it's a bit more dramatic than a pin. If you're going to do drama. Don't worry about a little pin. Put a gong at the front.
Love
and
it.
they've got to run up and hit the gong. Now,
huge fan of the gong. My nan had a gong in her kitchen and I was allowed to ring it when it was dinner time.
Oh, I'm jealous. For me, the gong that I always go back to and always think of is the movie Clue, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, where the chef sort of goes to call for dinner and sort of bashes the gong inconsistently. One of my favorite things.
Bring back the gong.
Bring back the gong. I love the gong. If you're going to do drama, and look, again, I'm not a fan of the pin, but if you're going to do the drama, do drama. But what I get it for the kids because obviously you need to have that safety net and that makes perfect sense. And they could use that at any time.
Yeah.
Now with the pin, you had to use the pin before the challenge.
Yes.
Now you can use these pins at any point all the way through, right up through judging.
I didn't realize it was through judging. I thought it was till the end of the cook.
Well, it might be the end of the cook. I don't know if it's all the way through judging, but it's pretty much through judging because if you get like 5 minutes away from the end, you're going to know if your dish is in trouble or not. Yes. Like, you're not going to think it's amazing and all the way through. Well, we'll talk about Trent in a minute. But you're not going to think it's amazing necessarily all the way through. You'll get to the ending, oh, this might be a bit dodgy. Okay, I'm using it.
Yeah, you'll have a pretty good feeling.
Now, one friend of the podcast, Degustation Destination on Twitter, pointed out something that I thought was a really interesting point, which was, so you've got these pins. So say, for example, we get to an elimination cook and you end up with 3 people in the elimination cook. Now, I'm assuming they won't put all 3 people on the same team. I'm assuming they'll separate all 3 of them. But if you get 2 of them, so say they divide it down the middle, it's a 50-50 split. If you get 2 people from the same team in the elimination cook who both have a pin and the third person doesn't, that third person is basically done for. Because when you get to the end of the cook, unless they have no idea that their dishes aren't very good, they're just going to use their pins at the very end of it. And you're going to end up with an elimination of 1 person going up and serving their dish. That's a worry for me.
Yeah, I foresee them having to give us more information.
Because like that's the thing. You could end up with 3 people in an elimination. They start the cook, they get almost all the way through the cook, and the 2 people with the pins just go playing it and back out. And the one person who might be cooking the dish of their lives goes, well, doesn't really matter what I do from here because I'm out of here. At that point, surely they'd have to save them.
A very, very short episode indeed.
Yeah, at that point, they'd have to save them and they'd have to go, look, we're not going to send you home. If we like the dish, we'll keep you. And then now they've
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. There's going to have to be some kind of conditions.
There's got to be a condition on it. I mean, I get why they went with 3 pins because I think it's because they don't want the fact they've now had 2 people go home with a pin. In the last couple of years, they've had 2 people leave with one. And I think they're trying to avoid that happening. Like Loki went home and Danny went home, both of them with pins.
Yeah.
And I think they're trying to avoid that. So they go with 3 pins and when you could use it at any point in time. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because the pressure alone of having it can actually totally mess with you.
Well, that's the other thing too, because like when you talked about for people forgetting it's a competition, I think that's the other thing too, is that like Danny and Loki sort of outthought themselves. Yeah. Like everyone with Loki, there was a lot of just use the pin, and he's like, no, not gonna use the pin now. And like Danny was sort of the same, and she got the pin, but she had a couple of other cooks where you're like, oh, probably use that. And no, I'm fine. It's too early, and overthought it.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing that I noticed personally, and this is not vaguely relating to cooking, it's just relating to them in general. KitchenAids have arrived. I was excited, and this is the sort of food nerd I am. I like a KitchenAid. I love a KitchenAid.
What's your favorite attachment?
I do. I have the mincer, and I adore the mincer.
Uh-huh.
I make some very good duck sausage rolls with that mincer.
Oh, amazing.
I need to get myself the pasta roller. That's got to happen.
Uh-huh.
So do you have a favorite KitchenAid attachment?
I would say it is my vegetable sheeter.
Yeah, that makes sense for you, to be honest.
You saw it coming.
Could have actually predicted.
I actually don't use it that often, but when I do, the satisfaction is high up there.
Yeah, it's like the mincer. Like the mincer is actually ridiculously satisfying. You start putting the meat in, you're like, oh, that's good.
This episode is also not sponsored by KitchenAid, but we are willing to accept if you choose to do so in the future.
Look, in this situation, we are open to being bought. I'm not going to lie, we are very open to being bought. I do genuinely again, and I have a boysenberry KitchenAid.
Mine is champagne.
Yeah, I'm disappointed because I got the boysenberry KitchenAid, then they discontinued everything in boysenberry.
Oh, really?
So it's so irritating. It's like Le Creuset cookware.
Yes.
I got the blue, the proper dark blue one.
I really liked that color.
And then they got rid of that. But they've now released a brand new set of their cookware with all sorts of colors, including a really amazing teal.
Oh,
and I had to stop myself today from buying a brand new one, because I don't need it. But I'm like, but I want the whole set of all the teal.
Yeah.
So because I can no longer match things, that's disappointing.
Yes.
Let's get on to Trent, because I think we need to talk Trent, because this is the only chance we're going to get, really. I don't think, and again, this is not a slight at poor Trent, I don't think anyone has had in the first week 2 worse sets of cooks than Trent. I think
there was a huge amount of overwhelm going on.
He was, again, we've talked a lot on the podcast in the past about the idea of Trent's blend into the background, sneak to the last 5 because everyone forgets they're there.
Despite how awesome they are in person.
They are awesome. At no point have I said anything other than they're awesome.
Oh no, it's just how do they slink into the background?
I do actually want to point out that we might have had a conversation at one point with the Trents when we were looking at doing our Virgies Awards show. There was a conversation we were going to have, and unfortunately we never got to it. We might have, who knows? I can't tell. But we never got to it, but we were going to do an award where we were going to have, or podcast actually, we were going to have Trents, both of them, in the background, just talking, and we were just going to not hear them the whole way through, and just them going, hello, guys, Chris, we're right here, like waving at us, and we never managed to tee it up, which is still my most disappointing moment on the podcast. This Trent, however, did not blend.
There was no background disguise.
He frequently described himself as a hot mess. And
what was the tart reference? It was also a sad little tart tonight.
Yeah, sad little tart. It was very out there. It was very prominent. And look, on one hand, he was highly entertaining, and I absolutely loved his energy, and I loved just watching him. But that has to be balanced up with the fact that, like, it's a competition and a cooking show.
Yeah.
And I thought that he sort of got lost in the whirlwind and lost what he was doing. And I thought Melissa sort of did a very good job last night when he almost basically forgot to plate a dessert and then went, oh crap, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I thought the way that Melissa spoke to him was good. I thought it was needed, where she was like, it's all good to be this ball of energy, but at some point you actually have to show us you can cook and you deserve to be here.
And I appreciated hearing that as an audience member as well, because there was a variety of different approaches, I guess, to various contestants in our season as well, along the way, when you sort of needed a bit of constructive criticism about something that you may or may not be aware of that is sort of pulling you in different directions. But it was usually reserved for off the camera. So I actually appreciated hearing that heart to heart.
No, it was really good. It was really good to sort of see. And again, it was a heart to heart. It wasn't just them ripping into him. It was them actually being genuinely sort of going, we like you.
Yeah, well, they selected him to be there. They obviously care and saw something.
Yeah, they were like, we really like you and we really enjoy having you here, but you need to take this a bit more seriously, basically, because if you don't take this seriously, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
So obviously Therese, Elise and Winona got the pins. So they have those immunity pins and then didn't have to cook tonight. Tonight, we'll start with Trent because I want to finish on happier notes. So, as I said, no one's had 2 worse cooks in the first week of MasterChef in my mind. And his egg and then chicken. I didn't think that it was going to get worse than the egg tart, which collapsed all over the place, and he had one left, and it was, as he said, a sad little tart. Until we got the lemon myrtle. Now, he did talk a lot about it. He said on camera that he loves lemon myrtle. It's one of his favourite ingredients to use.
It's one of my favourites too.
Tell us about lemon myrtle and using it, Elena.
It can be used sparingly because a lot of people can find it overpowering easily or medicinal even.
It gets very fast.
Yeah, so that can really overpower, like it's fantastic and sweet and savory and liquids, and it's so multi-purpose. I mean, being a favorite amongst our First Nations people for literally 65,000 plus years, it's so good in so many ways and so versatile, but sparingly is how I tend to use it. A little goes a long way.
So a lot goes to a candle. It was
there was many candles that could have been made.
It's rare I feel sorry for Andy, but tonight
he ate it.
He ate it. Like he had a mouthful of it, and they looked at it.
I don't think that you could anticipate that that's what it was.
What I love was poor Melissa, who looked at him and she goes,
"Oh,
is it mixed with anything?"
Yeah,
and he's just like, "No, that's pure lemon myrtle."
And that might come with Trent's experience and in the future. No. I don't think I saw him taste it.
No, I think nerves had a lot to play in that.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to get the flavors through, so he just upped everything. And like, I thought that what was my favorite moment of this episode in terms of what was happening with him was Connor. And I like Connor a lot. I've got a lot of time for Connor. Yes. When Connor's watching going, Trent, lemon myrtle, I got it in there. And then Connor does his bit to camera where he goes, I'm Greek. We put this stuff in everything. That's too much.
Yeah.
So I love Connor. I think Connor's fantastic fun.
He is a joy, isn't he? I can't wait to see more of his creations. Because, exactly. I mean, he even surprises himself in his cooks, which I just love. He's like, I didn't think I was going there, but I went there. It's great.
No, him on the first cook where Melissa's looking at him going, what's the plan? And he goes, don't know yet. She's like, wait, you've been doing this for like 20 minutes and you don't know what you're cooking yet? No, not yet. Work it out. And you could just see Melissa's like seething starting to develop with this idea of somebody winging it in a challenge. And then about halfway through the dish, he goes, oh, no, I know exactly what this is. And they go, that was brilliant. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Well done. That was amazing.
The people that would annoy the most are the story producers who try to get a recipe out of you in the first 30 seconds. I can just imagine them going, no, but what is it? What is it? We need to, what are we calling this?
I love the idea of that because, again, I've spoken to obviously a lot of people on MasterChef and a lot of people on Bake Off where they talk about having to recreate the dishes for the recipes. And, like, imagine going to Connor, all right, what did you do? And Connor looks and goes, can you watch the tape? Because I have no idea. I don't know. That was just a whirlwind. I've got plants. Like, I've got to go water my plants. Let me go water my plants. That was Twitter's favorite part about Connor is that he's a plant dad.
Oh yeah, I loved it, and they've all got beautiful names.
They do. That was really cool. Which dishes tonight? Let's leave poor old Trent and his lemon myrtle to sort of better days to the future.
Okay, my husband's name is Eric, but it's got nothing to do with how excited I was about Eric's chicken dish. My goodness, did I want to eat that.
It took me a moment, by the way, because on Twitter you tweeted out, Eric bringing the goods. My goodness, that's a glorious looking feast.
And you were like, oh, you could just tell him that he's in your house.
Why are you leaving your husband? I'm like, oh no, Eric and the chicken.
My husband Eric is not on Twitter. I don't think.
No, but that chicken, like
that chicken.
Joe and myself fighting each other over who got it.
Absolutely.
Oh, it looks superb. I could have devoured that easily. That was one of my favorite dishes. Any others that sort of really, really stood out?
I'm still thinking about that chicken. Let me.
I thought Dipinder's biryani.
Yes, the biryani. I am a huge biryani fan, and that just looked gorgeous. Really, really beautiful. They really played up Justin's chicken to not be doing so well, but he nailed it in the end.
Yeah, let's just quickly before you go to your next dish. I did say to everyone, I talked to everyone about my prediction for tonight. My prediction for tonight from the edit was Justin. And the reason why it was Justin was because everyone else who got camera time tonight has had camera time. And Justin was brand new on camera.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, so we're getting a backstory and we're getting Justin suddenly being the narrator. That seems unusual. Okay, I think it might be Justin tonight. And then they went, oh, is his chicken under? And I'm like, oh, here we go. It's Justin. And they did the whole. Then when they cut to the ad, I went, no, it's not Justin. They cut to the ad. The chicken's hot. So
you got both parts of that. A good tum is very delicious. I prefer my chicken done like that with a usually a baba ganoush, smoked eggplant, as opposed to the garlic. But each to their own. I really also liked Dan's oldest Chinese hamburgers.
They were incredible.
Oh, that looked so good. And I just I always love the history and the personal sort of stories that go along with those things, so that really, really appealed to me.
I thought it was really good. The one I was confused by tonight was Maya's the carbonara.
The carbonara, yeah.
There were a couple of ingredients there that
are carbonara-esque.
Well, I mean,
that weren't carbonara-esque.
Cream and lemon.
Yeah, which I actually think a lot of home cooks would have experimented with both.
Yep.
However, a lot of if you're serving a carbonara called a carbonara, it does need to be as close to that as possible, if not better. If you're not tributing something or paying homage to something and making it better or elevating it for a specific reason, then it needs to be as traditional as possible.
Now, can I just say my interesting one for the night was I don't know. I'm struggling to think that Linda's first cook it didn't look dry.
It didn't look dry. It was glistening. I was wondering, maybe I didn't understand. Maybe what I thought was a traditional larb is maybe my experiences have been different. But hers looked glorious. I would have tucked into that, no worries.
And I loved her. I did love her sort of what we'll call redemption style dish. With the noodles, I thought those noodles look great. And when they did the confit, the egg fail, and I'm like, we'll just fry it.
Absolutely. Which and the poach or the fry, I think probably suited the dish better anyway.
Yep.
In the end, and I'm so glad that the simplicity and elegance of that really hit the mark.
And that's the last thing I want to talk about before we finish up, which is when you go on MasterChef. And as someone who's obviously been through the pressures and etc., is it probably advisable to go on there thinking about things that are achievable in the time frame and under pressure? Because there were a lot of people doing
very ambitious, bold, ambitious choices tonight.
Far too much going on in some cases. You're like, just don't do half of that.
Yeah, it's I think that first week, maybe even 2 weeks, is when you're finding those things out. I remember the first cook for Marco Pierre White, I left the chicken crackling off the plate, which is just madness. But I never left anything off again. So it's in that time that you learn those things. I also had a panic in the last 10 seconds of something. So I made sure I was finished 5 minutes before the end from then on. So it's in that first 2 weeks that you really are finding your feet. And I think what a lot of the feedback has been is all of those simple and elegant dishes and very homely dishes and dishes that really connect to their makers are the ones that are being celebrated. So I'm hoping that continues, and rather than being bold and ambitious and maybe not quite pulling it off
And that's what
perfectly.
Melissa pointed out to them. Like, and that was, I think, the thing that people should take away from what happened with Ben in that first audition was, and
be yourself.
this idea of don't give us what you think we want, give us what's you.
Yeah.
And I hope that the ones that are stuck in there seem to be the ones that are going to be able to give us them.
Yeah.
And I mean, they don't need to say that's me on a plate. Please stop saying that, I'm over it. But represent it, definitely.
Yeah.
100%. Any final thoughts on the first week? It sounds weird that the first week's over.
It does. And yet...
I know. It was the longest, shortest, long week in history.
Yeah, it's kind of the perfect post-COVID weird time warp.
Hopefully we go back. I had a bit of a look at the TV guide for next week. It looks like we're going back to normal in terms of lengths of episodes.
Yeah, I think in terms of the marathon that it is over those 3 months, having a few shorter ones in there sort of really keeps your interest and keeps it family friendly. And I'll be able to get one in before my son wakes up for his needs to be put back down again, sort of thing. I am excited. I'm excited about the personalities. I'm excited about the diversity. I'm excited about learning. There's some really proud heritage stories, culture, connections with food and ingredients that I'm looking forward to seeing. I don't know if I'll be able to catch all of it and keep up, but I know that I'll definitely be keeping my eye out on some of these dishes and then going back. I'm very grateful for 10 Play.
that's also what I'm here for, is to keep you up to date. So that's my job.
You tell me the highlights and then I go back and watch those episodes.
Yeah, it's a service. Here, go, Elena, go watch this. It's a service I provide. Thank you very much for the first episode here of the Dishwasher Chronicles. I really appreciate having you on. It's an absolute delight every time we get to have a conversation.
Absolutely. And you'll find me tweeting occasionally with the rest of you.
Yep, should be tweeting occasionally. And also anything else that people should check out, Appetite for Change.
Oh yes, please. If you like this podcast, you may also like Appetite for Change, which is using a food as a vehicle for social change and positive impact in local and global communities.
Well done. Nice work. You've sold that beautifully. No, it's very much worth a listen. I highly recommend going on and having a listen to Appetite for Change, please.
We've got our first 9 episodes up, hoping to get another season out soon. Just we've got a lot of guests but lined up, but they are quite hard to schedule alongside two other hosts. So we will get there, and I'm really proud of what we've put together and the people that we're connecting our audiences with, small and large. There's a lot of really amazing stuff happening that you may or may not already know about.
It's outstanding, and there's some amazing conversations on there about all sorts of areas of food and a lot of different areas, not talking predominantly about things like what we've been talking about here, but talking about food safety, food security, all those sorts of things. Really worthwhile having a listen. So anyway, this has been the first episode of the Dishwasher Chronicles. I am Chris, and I will be back next week with another guest host who you'll find out when I find out. Now, I've got a couple of people lined up, so I'll be back next week, and we will catch you all later.